between Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, they make over $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion with a T.
Okay.
Annually. They spend tens of billions of dollars annually on candidates, causes, organizations that are literally diametrically opposed to our beliefs.
Right.
As Constitution-loving, Christ-loving human beings.
Sean, welcome to Sword&Spade podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. So we met at Mass. We met at RCIA.
Yes.
And you came up and I don't remember how you said it, but I interpreted it as I know stuff. And it was in this world of tech and opinions about the digital world. And the thing is, everyone has some opinions on that because we're surrounded by it. But then I went and asked you, hey, maybe we could talk about this on the podcast because you were into like protecting your family and stuff. And I thought that'd be good for fathers, men to consider. And then I asked you, well, send me your crazy, which is like, why would you want to be on the podcast? And then I started reading your stuff and dude, you're not just a lightly opinionated guy. You're deeply experienced.
Full-blown crazy.
Full-blown crazy. Yeah. And I think your email said, here's my crazy. I've never been compelled to read someone's bio because it's awkward when I've ever had that happen to me. So I don't want to read all of this, but you're infrastructure executive, entrepreneur, digital privacy advocate for 20 years, co-founder of mark37.com, which people should go to. You're all about, which is about this sovereignty, so digital sovereignty and some sort of like digital localism.
Yep. Which
was intriguing because it sounds like an oxymoron. Through ghost phones, ghost tablets, and ghost laptops, which I didn't know what that was. And you serve as the founder and CEO of both Open Spectrum Inc. and Mentat Partners.
Yes.
You were involved with like one of the platforms that had Truth Social on it. You were senior roles at tech companies, top performer for 6 consecutive quarters. You know, it's a little bragging later on, but I mean, the good kind. It's like you got clout, right?
It was the brief stint I did in corporate America where I decided to put my head down and make as much money as possible and then convince my wife that I needed to go back to doing my own thing.
Okay. All right. That's a common thread on this podcast. For some reason, I don't do it on purpose. God does it. Co-founder of this and that, blah, 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 and passionate advocate for digital sovereignty and parallel economic development, which I find myself really intrigued because that's what I sort of endeavor to do with local farming and local, you know, just actual natural economy. Mm-hmm. And you focus on building decentralized open source solutions that empower local communities. I Googled you, of course. You showed up at all conferences, writing, homeschool conferences.
Yeah, and I can't hide at this point, so I just have embraced it.
Yeah, okay. So, I did the unthinkable and Googled you. So how in the world, I don't know if we want to start from the beginning, but I don't even know if we should move backwards, but how did you get into this tech world? What's been your path into it?
So that's actually a fun story. So I grew up in Chicago, North Shore of Chicago. And my dad, who started out as a school teacher in the inner city of Chicago, got married, and my grandfather was an FBI agent and basically pulled a shotgun out on my dad and said, you need to get a real job if you're going to marry my daughter. Oh. And so my dad said, okay, sir. So
that's how they do it in Chicago too, huh?
That's how my grandfather did it.
Okay.
God rest his soul. But he then got a job as a runner on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And this is back in the day where they were literally in big pits, like swarms of people in big pits, throwing call signs at each other, trading stocks and bonds and all that stuff. And so my dad evolved in that industry and very quickly became a partner in a firm, and then realized very quickly that the industry was going to evolve and trade and change into digital. So it was no longer going to be physical people on the floors doing these call signs, trading, but it was all going to be done digitally. So my dad is one of the least tech-savvy people you've ever met, and he still is, despite years and years of me trying.
But he saw this coming?
But he saw this coming, and so he would actually bring home computers when I was young, early teenager and say, Sean, figure this thing out and teach me how to use it.
This is when? This is the 80s?
This was in the late 80s, early 90s. Yes. Okay. So I was born in 1980. So I think we're the same age.
84.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to use these computers and then teach my dad how to use the thing. And again, my dad is not tech savvy. So having to learn to have the patience, to learn how to use this thing with like no books, no internet, like no nothing. How does this thing work? And then having to teach my father how to use that thing when he's like, where's the on switch, right? Trained my brain into loving tech and getting involved in technology, and then just learning how to teach people.
So I mean, you're 8 to 10 years old when he's doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe 8 to 12.
Yeah.
I remember teaching my grandmother, and I handed her a mouse, and she took it in the air and was like, "It's not moving." I'm like,
yeah.
I don't even know how you don't know that.
Right. There's a lot of people who don't know. My nickname as a kid was Game Boy because I was playing video games all the time.
Wow.
So I always wanted to get.
You don't have the look of like an early onset nerdydom.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
early onset nerddom.
I'm a good chameleon, and that's what's made me a good. I used to wear a 3-piece suit all the time.
Okay.
Everywhere I go, that's why I don't. I try to dress down all the time because I got so tired of wearing 3-piece suits.
Yeah.
But I used to live in Santa Cruz, California, where like I would walk down the street with all the purple hairs and the no hairs and tattoos everywhere, and people would yell at me. And
sounds like a tech guy.
"You're a freak, man! Get out of here!" And I'm like, "Do you not see yourself? Like you're judging me because of what I'm wearing because I'm wearing a 3-piece suit, and yet what you're wearing, dressed in a costume, is totally normal and okay. Like,
right.
How do you not see?
Yeah, because they don't think it's a costume.
Yeah.
All right, hold on, wait, you're getting ahead.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're a kid teaching your dad for the sake of.
So that's what got me into tech.
But what got you into tech, interestingly, is the globalizing economy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was your dad's end. And you write a lot about that's basically who is controlling and the tech
right
now, or the purpose behind it. So where did it go from? Is your dad still
I went
in
to
like
university?
finance?
No. I mean he's retired now and has gotten out.
All right.
Also through that, so when I was 14, so going through, learning all this stuff, my dad, as I told you earlier, made me sit down and watch this, I think it was this like a 7-part VHS series from J. Edward Griffin on The Creature from Jekyll Island, which if any of your listeners probably know, this book teaches you all about the history of money and banking, who owns the world, who runs the world, what is currency, what has value. And that really helped me understand and frame the context through when, I started viewing the world. So
it made you crazy early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty darn crazy. And, also just fun from a faith perspective.
Yeah.
My dad, who was born and raised Catholic, and we were baptized Catholic, he then started, he helped get started the Chicago prayer breakfast at that time. And he had friends from all kinds of different denominations. And he was actually taking me, my sister really didn't want to go, but I would go with my dad to all these different denominational churches all over Chicagoland for about a year and a half. Jews for Jesus, the Southern Baptist, like the African American community where they would have like 8-hour, Sunday sermons, like all kinds of fun stuff.
I went to one of them one time.
Yeah. And so I was exposed to all this stuff at a very young age, which most people they just don't have those experiences, right? So that also framed my worldview. And in addition to that, so I became very active in my Catholic church and the youth group and youth ministry. I was leading youth retreats and whatnot, like Kairos and whatnot. And then I was also very actively engaged with the Bible church in town, and had a lot of close friends there because they were open till 1 a.m. Their gym was open till 1 a.m. so I could play basketball with my homies and do a Bible study, and then go pick my sister up who was out at a party somewhere.
This was kind of this was a natural evolution from your like in your teenage years. You didn't have like I'm sure there was trouble, but like not a massive apostasy.
Not for me.
Kind of stayed.
No.
Okay.
That was mostly college for me.
College. Okay. I was gonna say if it wasn't then when?
Yeah.
But I hate that that's a presumption. But
I was born I'm a June 20th, Gemini, which doesn't mean much to most people. But like for me, I do kind of have this duality of my life where like I've lived in it. I've seen some stuff. I can sit down and talk to the most evil people that we've ever met, who I've literally seen, the devil staring at me, and have a conversation with this person. And then, go on a week-long silent retreat with my pastor and
Dude,
other
that's a
people.
huge grace. I actually, not to say me too, but the other day I was on flying, and there was on my flight was, and I Googled him later. Apparently, he's very famous. He's a pagan gay priest of sorts, and my son Peter was with me, and he's like, "Man, I didn't think y'all would ever stop talking." And he gave me the funniest like gay jokes and stuff. I mean, oh man, it was great. But anyway, there is a skill. I appreciate that you can do that because you can know these things and be able to engage people as a human.
And that's key, like with our faith or with anything. And for me, within business, in sales or as an entrepreneur or in politics, like you have to learn how to engage with people and meet them where they're at. Like I have very strong opinions, but depending on who I'm talking to will depend on how I need to engage that conversation.
Yeah. So that's called prudence, man. It's called
prudence and tact.
Or manipulation, depending on who we're dealing with.
Right.
Could be
exactly.
prudence.
Yeah. So neuro-linguistic programming, like I've done those classes. Right. I've spent time up in the mountains in Santa Cruz with the Heart Math Foundation folks, like learned all kinds of fun stuff from those folks.
Okay, so you had more stuff that's not even on your bio here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I need to keep you on your narrative then because so in this podcast, it goes a lot of time to the Sword&Spade subscribers and the Fraternus men, right?
Yeah.
We have Fraternus at our parish. You're going to join us as a brother sometime. And a lot of these guys are leading their families, and we kind of frame everything within the virtues, right? So I think in this one, we're talking about prudence, which is what do we know? How do we act on it? And prudence, by the way, is not just knowing stuff. It is action.
Right.
That's a mistake. People think prudence means temperance. You're a prude. You're withheld. That's not prudence is action, and it's right action. So I want to get to, you're proposing some actions. Like I came downstairs with my wife, and like, we need to maybe make changes. So that's the kind of person or the work you are and the work you're doing. So I need to keep the narrative here of you were involved with your faith.
Yeah.
You also were strangely ecumenical in your experience of, going around, which by the way, you said Southern Baptist. I just want to point out as a Southern man that the Baptists are a Yankee religion. They came down from, that's why they're related to the Anabaptists and the Puritans and stuff. They're not from. So I know that there's a big one now in the South, but just in case the listeners don't know, Baptists are not Southern. They just happen to be here now. Anyway, so and that they came down and then became Southern Baptists and then went back up to Chicago. So that's like weird.
Yeah.
All right. So you knew tech young. And you went to college.
Went to college in Silicon Valley, so this was key. So Santa Clara, California.
Was it because of the tech thing?
Yes. So I wanted to go to where the action was. So 98 was when I went in the university.
Oh, man, that's like the thick of it.
Yeah. So I was in Santa Clara, went to Santa Clara University, which is a Jesuit university.
Okay.
Had a fun time getting in all kinds of debates with the Jesuit priests there. They were full blown, there were many of them that were unapologetically what they called pink Jesuits.
Okay.
Homosexual Jesuits who were literally recruiting students to join their activities.
Wow.
And I was very much not okay with what was going on, and they were not okay with me not being okay with what was going on.
Yeah, you're so judgmental.
Yeah. So anyway, at Santa Clara University in Silicon Valley, sophomore year, me and a handful of buddies said, oh, if all these other idiots can raise money and start companies, why can't we? So we did. So at 19, me and 4 other buddies started a company called All Dorm. We raised about $1 million in capital, and we were going to school full time. We were working full time, and I was in a fraternity at the time, which I've.
I mean, you could have been this is like a Zuckerberg. This is like the movie, right?
Straight up.
I mean, this is what.
And if anyone has seen, there's actually it's a comedy, but it's called Silicon Valley. Have you heard of this? It was on HBO. I think it was on HBO, one of them. But that is literally like I lived that show.
Right.
And I will.
And is it just kind of like bro techs starting companies?
Yes. We all lived in the same house together. We had like a pool in the backyard. It was ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah. This is it's like out of a movie, literally. Yeah. All right. So you're kind of riding that tech bubble.
Yes.
Yeah. Did the company work?
No.
Okay.
No, but learned a lot. I
just can't imagine. How did this? Was it just the excitement of the investors? They're like, yeah, these guys, we'll give them $1 million.
Well, so it was a company called All Dorm. So at that time, Amazon was huge.
All right,
and at that time,
but it was still books.
It was correct.
Right?
It was just books,
yeah.
But it was just starting to change. Okay. So we said, well, we're a bunch of college kids. How can we convince people to give us money? We're like, well, let's ride the Amazon wave. So we said, well, let's do Amazon, but just in the college niche.
Wait, was this, and Facebook was kind of on colleges?
Facebook hadn't really even started yet.
Yeah.
It was just like
By the way, so you're 80, so you get to claim Gen X, right?
Yeah.
I get categorized with the millennials because I'm 84.
Interesting.
But the beef I have with that is we did not have social media when I was in high school.
I didn't either.
Or smartphones.
Oh,
and I
that's
think like millennials, like, I mean, you can't say that's not a
Right.
defining factor. At this point, I'm like, I got kids. Like, don't call me a millennial, you know? But anyway, I relate to as Gen X. Gen X in my heart. All right. So
tech stuff, I thought I was going to be an attorney. I took the LSAT and didn't perform as well as I wanted to. That's a whole fun story we could do another time over drinks. But I then basically said, okay, I'm not going to become an attorney. Then I think I'm just going to stick in tech and stick in sales. And I stumbled into the data center industry, which is what I've been in.
what is that?
So they're big warehouses at the end of the day that are designed to never
collecting
lose
stuff?
power.
Oh, okay.
And they have like billions of dollars worth of servers. They have massive diesel generators and battery backup systems and fiber optic cable that comes in, multiple strands of fiber from different providers.
Okay. So these are sorry, you use this word I didn't know. Colocation?
Co-location.
I'm an idiot.
Yes.
Co-location.
Co-location. So you're co-locating your server.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So a lot of people will have their server sitting in like a closet in their office.
Right.
Which is kind of stupid because you're paying a lot of money for the power. You're paying a lot of money to cool all that infrastructure. If the building goes down, your stuff is going to go down and your site goes down.
Okay.
So they've built these critical infrastructure facilities that most businesses have their data living on these servers. So companies like Facebook have invested literally at this point trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
With
There's
the T.
one down the road.
Yeah.
Is that the one in Rutherford?
Yeah, Kings Mountain.
No, there's another little Facebook plan. You know how I know this? So I was raising pigs. I always raise pigs. And I had 6 pigs that were going to Wells Jenkins Slaughterhouse this a while back. And my trucks on the way up the hill, the transmission of my truck, old Chevy, crappy old livestock trailer with no tags on it, the transmission goes out on the hill. And the guards come out and they're like, Facebook. Like, it's like a Facebook facility. It's got this big wall. It's on 74. And they all come out, and I'm like sitting there with like overalls on, and this like with the tech lords looking over me. I'm sorry about my pigs in your yard.
They're facilities guys that run that place. This is the interesting thing, actually. Very interesting. Most people think that a data center, inside this data center, you have a bunch of geeks, like Silicon Valley, blue-haired geeks. No. It's literally blue-collar infrastructure facilities guys who are very much mission aligned.
Yeah.
They've accepted the fact that they're going to make a lot of money and just work inside these facilities where they really don't have that much work to do.
Okay. So is this you with these things?
No. So I was the one helping people plan the buildings.
Okay.
And helping people understand what type of infrastructure needs to be inside that facility to support the type of data that's going to live in that building. So I'll give you a perfect example.
All right.
Your email. What kind of email service
I don't
provider?
want to admit that, man, because of our conversation.
Let's just say you have a Gmail account.
What?
Right. Let's just say you have a Gmail account. And your Gmail email from like 15 years ago, which you might still have, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's no point for that email to live inside of a facility that has a very high cost of power, that is in a high cost of real estate region, and that's going to be sitting next to a bunch of other infrastructure that's very expensive.
Right.
They're going to put that in a super low cost area like Quincy, Washington, where it's the lowest cost of power in the United States. Massive hydroelectric plant out that way.
Okay.
It's like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. It's crazy cheap out there, right?
So what's crazy to me is you're making things that to me are not real, and you're bringing them down to earth, right? Which I don't think of an email as a file like I would in a file cabinet. But you're like, yeah, it is.
That's
what
it's
it is. Somewhere.
It's storage. That data has to be stored somewhere.
That's weird.
On a server somewhere.
Okay.
Right?
Which is funny because it's everything tech is like, hey, this is going to save the world while it's, but it's got to be somewhere. It's not as if it's literally in the clouds. Like it's somewhere.
So what's really important here is I've spent my career demystifying this stuff.
Yeah.
The way these tech companies tend to make money, though, is by keeping it mystified.
Yes.
They want you to think that this is this crazy illusion, like magical thing that they're doing, because the more you start to narrow down and you can say, no, this is exactly what it is, the less they can do this hand-wavy salesman, used car salesman type of stuff.
Right.
To get you to say, oh, that's amazing. We should invest billions into this thing.
Yeah. And also, so I think I need to pivot with you because you're just bringing up the whole, when we talk about tech and it's like, everyone goes, well, it's a tool. You got to use it wisely. It's like, okay, I get it. But something more is happening. right? And I don't think it's controversial to say there's something about the whole tech media world that's like really close to the Antichrist, right? In Revelation, meaning he's a nameless, he doesn't have a name, he just has a number, 666. He assigns numbers to everyone else for what purpose and what end is to buy and sell. And then it's like, well, how would he get everyone on board with this program? It's like, well, he's making it possible for them to buy and sell. He's actually, a tyrant doesn't come into existence by not solving your problems. He solves your problems. So the better
Creates
he
the
is.
problem first.
That's right.
And then goes about solving it for you.
All right. Or I would say he solves something that ought to be solved in another way. Right. So I would say the industrialization of the family as an example, right? Things that the family can do, like take care of each other, can be industrialized, daycares, rest homes, things like that. So this is where I want to get a quote. I pulled a quote. I'd like to, maybe I cut off your story.
Yeah, so let me finish that real quick.
Okay, all right.
So the data that lives in Quincy from your email from 15 years ago, it might take 2 seconds for when you click that email for it to then show up on your laptop, because it has to be retrieved and then sent to your laptop. 2 seconds is nothing, right?
Right.
Like you click on it, you wait 2 seconds, you get it. You're like, no big deal. Didn't even think about it. But credit card transactions or like the trading transactions, like those are millisecond, microsecond transactions where if those don't clear that quick, people lose and or make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So those are going to sit in different types of facilities that are designed to truly never lose power.
They cannot slow down
because they can't slow down
the churn of money.
Right. So
is that the reason? Because hey, man, any second loss is a sale loss.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So, big companies like X or like Facebook and whatnot, they invest all this money in these facilities to never go down, because if their platform goes down, they're losing. They have no eyeballs looking at the content, and they're losing a lot of money every single second.
So are they but they've got more money in making sure that money can get spent.
They've got a
right?
stupid amount of money.
No, I mean, the money they're investing in, one, they don't ever want to shut down, but they always want to make sure they're getting your money. I mean,
correct,
as efficiently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the most efficient ways for them to do that is to sell your data.
Right.
Because they have access to all of your data. So
and did you kind of come to this? So this is where we can't over this. Did you come to this by working with this data? Is that what creeped you out about how it's being used?
Yeah. So I thankfully, my father taught me, follow the money. Like, not a hard concept, follow the money. And if you follow the money, you can then start to learn who the players are, who the owners are, because the CEO, COO, the face of a company is not always who owns that business. But if you can learn who owns the business, and then you look at the ethos of the person who owns that business, you can start to learn how that business is going to act and react in the marketplace. What do they really care about?
Yeah. What are they really after?
What are they really after? And then from there, you can start to put it all together and say, okay, what agenda are they following? And if you start to understand global systems and you're like, okay, well, I know who the World Bank is. I know who the International Monetary Fund is. I know how it got started. I know how the UN got started. I know all these different World Economic Forum. I know all these different institutions and players and families through genealogies, because I became a conspiracy theorist at age 14 and I've been digging down these rabbit holes, right?
Right.
It became very quick and easy for me to realize, holy smokes, these guys are capturing all of this information to then use it and sell it, but primarily to use it against us.
Right.
And let me just tell you this.
Go ahead.
If I know, do you journal?
Occasionally.
Okay. So I journal every day. Every day.
It's a good habit.
I do a quote and I do, things I can improve on in my life. And then I do.
What do you mean you do
things
a quote?
That I'm
like something
grateful
you read that day?
Yes.
Okay.
So mostly scripture, but might be some other great quote that I've come across.
Let's see if we can come up with some today.
Yeah. Then I do 3 things that I'm grateful, at least 3 things that I'm grateful and thankful for. And then I go through like, if I could just get these 3 things done today, I will have a productive day.
So you do this in the morning?
Every morning. And then I just expand from there. If I have other thoughts or ideas, I'll throw it on there, or throughout the day, I'm constantly going in. So even with all of that, I can flip back in my life to literally when I was 19, when I started doing this when I was 19. So I can go back to my thoughts when I was 19 years old, which is pretty awesome, right?
You don't need a data center for that.
I don't need a data center
for
that. But imagine this. If I know everything you've ever bought, if I know every email you've sent, every text message you've sent, I know all your contacts, I can listen and hear all the conversations you're having around you, which is happening with most of our devices.
Right.
I have all of this information. I know more about you than you even know about yourself.
Man, so we're working on a Sword and Spade issue right now on Know Thyself. And it did occur to me as most of us think about it as like self-examining how much they know. We're like now Amazon and stuff. It's like, how did you know that's what I wanted to buy?
Yeah.
You know?
So I travel the country doing training on these topics, educating people on here's all the ways we're getting screwed. And then here's what we can do about it. But people will be like, they're reading my mind, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like that technology exists, yes. And look at the patent for your Apple AirBuds that you put in your ear. Look at the patent for that. I have an article on my website that gets into this. Literally, the patent says that it's designed to read your brainwaves and to influence your brainwaves through just sending electronic pulses into your brain.
But people don't care. People don't believe it. So I was just talking to a family member. And we were sitting, he's like, I'm not interested. You know, he was saying Facebook, it's all this or that. I'm not interested in that stuff. And I stopped, I'm like, yes, you are, because that's what's engaging you. The fact that you even repeated it to me, like they've got, I don't care about all that, political stuff. Well, yeah, you do, or they wouldn't be showing it to you. Right. And they know that you care. So for you to say, I don't care is a lack of self-knowledge. You do care, or they wouldn't be showing it to you. And then you wouldn't be repeating it to me now. So you do care. So people, they don't know. But then the second one, when you bring it up, the thing that's astounding to me, so I'm a bit of a, I'm a bit of a Luddite. Like I love
this. I love it.
This
is a old school flip phone.
Yeah. So can I tell you
smartphone.
My quick, and I want to tell you where I have been known, my friends around me, like to be pretty anti-screen for different reasons than you. My last smartphone was a BlackBerry. And I had it in Colorado in like 2010. I was there for grad school and late life grad school. I had 2 kids at that point, maybe 2. Three kids. And I went into the store and I remember the guy going, and I was in this philosophy class. I was overthinking everything. And the guy goes, well, once you've had a smartphone, you can't go back. I remember thinking, I don't know what it is in what you just said, but I never want one again. And I went, so it wasn't over, but then later, I'm very influenced by the writings of John Senior, who back in the 70s, he was talking about how his students in college in Kansas were incapable of understanding truth because they were so detached from reality. And this was in the 70s. And he was blaming things like the scent of their deodorant and air conditioning. So he's just saying when you get severed from reality, he famously said, like, he's not sure Christian civilization can live in a world without shadows, meaning like electric lights. To not have shadows and to not sense what darkness is, it like changes you. So anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. And then
that's some fun stuff.
Yeah, but then I mean, this book was like life-changing to me. This is The Shallows by Nicholas Carr, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. Now, this is my old copy. It's got the coffee stains on his stuff. But he has an updated one because this came out before the iPhone, I think, or before like the iPhone took over everything.
Right.
And he's got a whole section about what it's doing to you. But the main point of this book is that your brain has a neuroplasticity to it, and that essentially, if you live like a hunter-gatherer, right, your brain is attuned. Your brain changes based on its environment and what it needs, so that if you're a hunter-gatherer, you learn to scan, right, and to sort of be on alert and ready to hunt, right? Or if you're a warrior, if you're a fight, like you're gonna be attuned. And he describes that the internet is making us a lot like that, essentially shallow. That our thoughts, and there's a lot to say about that. But I think the main point I got from it is it makes it harder to pray. Like, so when people go, man, I just can't read a book anymore. It's like, well, it's not because. It would be like someone if their muscle went away, which, by the way, I just turned 40 and my wife told me my muscles are going to deteriorate, and I think it's true. I'm like, looking. But like your muscle goes away from atrophy and then you're surprised you can't use it. That when people use tech, they believe they're just using a tool. But his point is something is happening to you that's physical, so that when you try to return to something you know is good, like reading or praying or having a conversation with someone, and you can't, it's actually because your brain is doing exactly what it asked. Right. And then the other one that I think I wanted to bring down, if you're wondering why I brought these to you, is this one called Buying In, the secret dialogue between what we buy and who we are. So I think one of the central, I don't know if I have it marked, but his central ideas is like, look, we've been sold this idea that like we're all radically autonomous individuals that are seeking our own freedom. But he makes the point, you really can't, that's actually not human, that you actually have to belong to something, or you feel you just like you can't not belong. That's why when people are like, I went to college and I found myself, it's like, no, you didn't. You joined in with this group of purple hairs, right? You didn't like find yourself. You found someone that you could imitate.
Yeah.
And you imitated them really well. You didn't find yourself. The only one who found himself totally and alone in his own creation is the devil, right? And he's kind of get us on board. But with the buying in, he's talking about how that has been solved. That dilemma of belonging and individuality is basically solved by brands, right? So if, if I'm giving a talk on this, you can, like, and you're in a group, you can say, all right, if I'm wearing Nikes, what sport do I play? Basketball. If I'm wearing Adidas, what sport do I play? Soccer. If I'm wearing Vans or Airwalks, what do I do? I'm a skateboarder, right? He talks about how these identities are these brands. Mm-hmm. So I was putting these together in my mind, reading what you're talking about, that they're hunting us constantly to know us for the primary ends of, I mean, we could say controlling us, but is it like it's selling us? I mean, it is like churning out. Are we like
so
a
the real
cash
question,
farm?
what are they selling us on, right? So it's psychological warfare at the end of the day.
Yeah. Ooh, okay.
That's what it is.
That's all right. Say that
It's
again.
Psychological warfare.
So if I were to be a good disciplined journaler, that's what I'm going to put in. Tech is psychological warfare.
It's what it is.
Okay.
And that's what they use all these devices are designed to be psychological warfare tools. And I get in this debate with people from the industry all the time. They're like, well, they didn't know when they first started building these things that it was going to evolve. And I was like, you've got to be out of your freaking mind. Read any kind of science fiction books from the 20s, 30s, 40s. They all saw how this stuff was going to evolve.
Well, even the guy who invented the endless scroll, he like repented of it publicly because it's ruined everybody.
Watch any documentary that has the engineers that worked on these projects from Instagram, from Facebook, from TikTok. They will literally be like, we don't let our kids touch these things.
Because they know what it's doing.
Because they know exactly what it's doing. They know exactly why. And let me just blow your mind for a second. Between Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, these 5 companies,
okay,
they make over $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion. With a T, okay, annually. They spend tens of billions of dollars annually on candidates, causes, organizations that are literally diametrically opposed to our beliefs, right, as Constitution-loving, Christ-loving human beings, right? They are promoting literally the antithesis of what we stand for. This is what we're up against. So when I don't think people fully realize the absolute insanity and what's the word I'm looking for? When you're there's like the 3 levels. You have a narcissist, you have a sociopath, psychopath. The psychopathic nature of the people who own and control these businesses. And when you follow the money, right? Zuckerberg is a face at the end of the day. And he has now publicly repented and said, I'm just a tool, man. I was just doing what I was told.
Right.
Right? I have slave owners who told me what I needed to do in order to continue to get the paycheck and continue to be living the life and doing all the things and be able to buy the island in Hawaii and right?
Right.
So when you start to realize, well, who are the slave owners? Who are the people that own, well, it's BlackRock, it's State Street, it's Vanguard, it's Berkshire Hathaway. And you're like, well, those are just institutions. Who owns them? Mm-hmm. Well, they all own each other.
Yeah.
So then who are the actual families and institutions that are reaping these rewards? And when you dig down those rabbit holes and you start to name names and you're like, oh, right, okay, these are the families. And then you say, well, what is the ethos of these families? They're death cult members, straight up death cult members. And you're like, okay, so we have the death cult that runs and controls the businesses that own and operate not just tech, because Berkshire, State Street, Vanguard, all these companies, they also own our food supply. They own all of the household products that we buy. They own everything. They own the real estate. They own everything.
And the way that it arrives to us is, one, the obvious influence that they're, I don't know if it's this type, if it's, eventually the ethos of the top gets to the bottom, it's death. But my experience, just I'm the peasant on the ground, right, of these feudal lords. Oh wait, I don't want you to throw feudalism under the, but feudalism has more beauty to it than people give it credit. But
It depends on who the Lord is.
that's right. Oh, there you go. Thank you. But what they've done is ensnared us in, I think, an alternative world, and one that is, we're like aware it's doing something bad, but there's kind of the perspective I'm bringing, like, oh, it makes your kid kind of dumb and like awkward, or or he's addicted to social media. But really, they're also just extracting money endlessly, right? It's what it seems to me like. I just feel like, man, I'm just trying to look for a recipe. Can I not have 30 videos trying to play at the same time? But then also the scary thing that it's not just that. It's not just like effective, like, Don Draper, Mad Men, making a really effective ad in a magazine. They're actually knowing us and storing more about us than we remember. Right. Because I'm going to forget an email from 15 years ago.
Right.
Like, I bet. And have you ever like looked in your archive and like, you're like, whoa, I wrote like a 7-page email about this a long time ago. And like, you can be like, that's really good. That's terrible. I can't believe I put that.
So with that, they know your triggers.
Yeah.
They know exactly what to say to either get you to respond and stay on the platform longer so that you have more eyeball time, so that they can generate more revenue, so they can trigger you to respond and get actively and get engaged. I ask this as I travel around, has anyone ever been in an argument with someone online that they didn't know and actually had them change your opinion or you change their opinion? Not a single person has raised their hand. Not one. And yet we get triggered and we try to engage with people and have these conversations.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But
Yeah,
when you start to
remember
realize
the cartoon, the wife said, honey, what are you doing? He said, someone on the internet is wrong. Like,
Right.
just, what
Right.
are you going to do?
But oftentimes, this is going to blow a lot of people's minds, it's not even a real human.
Oh, come on.
Not even a real human.
Okay, so my friend...
Between 40 and 65% of the users on these platforms are bots, which means robots. They're not real people. They make up fake accounts, look like real people. They've been doing this for years. I used to walk into the data centers where they had thousands of phones and laptops all positioned, managing all these different accounts. And when I started to see all this stuff and realize this is for marketing, right? Brilliant for marketing. If I'm a new band that comes out and I can instantly buy followers, I'm not buying real people. I'm buying bots.
And those bots can interact and be like, man, this band's awesome.
Yes.
So the other day, all right, my friend Craig Tafaro, he's across the street. He's the butcher. He's on here. He was posting a new pig raising and cooking course that he had. And I don't have Facebook, but I have it so I can, it's on one device that we can, it's just there. I don't use it, but I looked him up to see, like,
Okay.
he posted.
I won't judge you for it.
No, I mean, I don't actually just don't have one. So if somebody goes and tries to friend me, it's not you, it's you. But I went and looked, and there's this, and he was posting this pig course, and there was this person that was like the most bizarre vegan arguments ever. And I'm like, and now I'm like, that must have been a bot, or maybe that's just we want our enemies to be robots. Okay, but the way they do this though, and this is from one of your Substacks. That's like, how do they do this? Because what you're saying makes us angry. So anger is the response of a man to injustice that he perceives. But a lot of us, we're not even perceiving it because it's such a great tool in solving so many problems.
Right. So convenient.
That's precisely why your old device has been able to gain access to everything you say and do. It just works because it's designed to extract maximum data while creating minimum friction. The convenience you enjoyed was the bait in an elaborate trap. So this is one, and we should bring up, the nature. This is an Aquinas thing. Oh, I like Aquinas. The nature of, and that's how we got talking about Aquinas stuff. The nature of artificial economy versus natural economy. Natural economy is good. It fills needs, right? So it's things like you need milk that I have, and then you have whatever, and we can use this exchange of money, right? Which is artificial. The money is artificial, but it's still useful. It's tied to a real thing. All that they're buying and selling, none of them, right? If we're looking at the bigger, they're not craftsmen that are interested in the thing that they're making or the person, really just the money that they can extract. So they've now perfected this smooth onboarding system of creating no friction, making it easy, and then solving problems endlessly. So they become very hard to argue with because I have an intuitive dislike of GPS. But there's my daughter just got her license, and it'd be nice if she had it. And I saw that you had recommendations for like, you can, and this is what I told my wife, sweet, you don't have to have a because the question was, is she getting a smartphone? And I was like, no. I actually even made it through, my son has type 1 diabetes and all the blood tracking things, the CGMs. Because if you have a kid with type 1 diabetes, if you don't do the right thing, he can die. Yeah. So, but I even made it through that, no smartphone. But my wife has one to track that. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, well, is my daughter going to have one? And we held out because no.
And what's crazy, and I literally just did this with a customer who has diabetes, needed an app. That app is actually run and controlled by Merck.
The Dexcom app? It's probably what it is.
It might be that one.
Okay.
And it requires that Google actually has control of that app, and you have to actually sign in with your Google account in order to even use the app. So with all the stuff that we do, we teach people how to anonymously be able to access and use a lot of the tools that you still might need to use in the world today. But Google and the pharmaceutical companies are now making it harder and harder, whereas they need to know it's you for privacy, for their own privacy and security reasons. We need to know that's you for HIPAA, for whatever. Save the kids. There's all kinds of interesting conversations that how big tech is actually using our own arguments against us to try to convince us that we need to be able to have our kids verify their age before they can use anything online, right? This digital ID, which is the last line in the sand. The second we have digital ID, we're totally screwed.
Okay. That's good to know. So I can hold out on that too. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so with that app, they've now made it so that you have to play by their rules. You have to be fully in their system. They have to know exactly who you are, where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing what you're doing in order to even use that app to then be able to monitor and make sure that your kid's not going to die.
Right. And the other day I was doing something with a kid, and it was my daughter getting a bank account set up. And she's like, well, it's like terms and conditions, click. She's like, what is that? It's like, it's this illusion that I have some sort of choice.
Right.
In whether or not you can have money in a bank. Because what am I going to do? Negotiate? Like you click the box. They don't even now, sorry, I don't know if this is related. You go to like the doctor's office. You remember you used to have to read the paperwork and sign it like we can do whatever we want, and it's like you're giving them permission, and some of it you can reject and some, but then now they don't even, you just have the signing pad. They're like, this one is for, it's just a little pad in front of you. This one's so that we can, poke and prod at you. And this one is so that we can tell other people we poked and prodded at you. And this is so we can laugh at your x-rays,
And you don't sue us in case we can.
Yeah. And I literally, to see the doctor, I just have to sign, right? It's like all these terms and conditions. So anyway, to use anything, you're saying even in the case of so that would be so just like a CGM is what we're describing for a diabetic. They're tracing their blood sugar. Mm-hmm. They could actually know that my son, for example, like when his lows happen, right? Like,
and they're going to tie that to his profile, which he already has.
And they'll know when he eats. They could read his CGM and know when he eats.
Yes. So they're now going to have access to all of that data.
That's super creepy. All right. So my reasoning as a father for limiting tech has been what I would, I guess, in the realm of formation. So Sword&Spade, I was telling when you came in, I was like, the sword represents that a father must defend his family, and the spade is cultivating something worth defending within his community, in his area. So that's the spade. And that's where I have emphasized the reason I'm opposed to tech is that I actually, because of the shallows, right? What it actually does to your mind, ultimately it makes it harder to pray. I mean, if there's any reason to have less time on a device, it's because it makes it harder to pray. I mean, that's stop there, full stop. But you're actually giving really good reasons that we need a sword, that we need to be defending our family against all this stuff going on. If for no other reason that we don't want to be known by someone that we don't know, because they're not someone that can be known by us, right? I mean, I want to be known by my wife. I want to be known by you. I don't want to be known by Google. So the current thing you're working on right now, this Mark 37, you've got this. Is this where I could ask you, like, how do we protect against this? I mean, that's totally. Like, all right.
Yep.
So tell me, what do you mean by like digital localism and sovereignty? Is that just sort of like, okay, because my response to everything you're saying is that's it, throw out all the devices. You're actually saying no, because you're a former, or a still existing, tech lover.
Yeah. So, I'm not anti-tech.
But there's a way that this can not be, like, we can decouple the, I don't know, evil antichristing of tech.
At the end of the day, it's who has control of your data. Mm-hmm. Who has access to your data? Like that's a simple question.
Right.
And when you start to go through that in your life, let me just back up.
Okay.
Let me just back up because one of the there's two key parallel concepts. One is when you start taking seriously, where does my food come from? Mm-hmm. Who's making my food?
Right.
That's a simple question. Where did this food come from? And you start digging down that rabbit hole and you start actually, well, what are the ingredients in the food I'm eating?
Well, when there's a rabbit hole in my food, we kill the rabbit because get it? That's a little farmer joke there.
But by simply asking that simple question, you start reading the ingredients, you're like, wait a second, this is poison, this is poison, this is poison. Why am I putting poison in my body? Why am I feeding poison to my kids?
Right. Because I can tell you why. Because the convenience you enjoyed was the bait in an elaborate trap.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So it's the convenience.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. Well, the grocery store is right down. My grocery store is not going to sell me things that are going to kill me.
Right.
The FDA is supposed to protect me. They wouldn't allow for products that would kill me.
Okay, so relate that to the tech stuff.
It's the same concept.
Okay.
So if you're going to say, okay, enough is enough, I'm not going to continue to just buy the crap that they feed me. I'm going to actually spend time to get educated, to get a little bit smarter about where my food is coming from. Maybe I'll find a holistic grocery store that has better products. Maybe I'll start doing a little bit more research about the companies that are making the food so I can buy more sustainable, more
See, here's
authentic.
your problem. I already know where your problem is, and this is where this is a perfect analogy because we've been passionate and involved with sort of local agrarian.
Yeah.
That's that'd be another point. I'd like to connect all this to the fact that you've got to put your hands back in the soil where you live. Not just that you have to be a farmer, but I mean you got to like root down, and it's not hard to know where your food comes from when you can see it growing.
Right.
But the biggest, no one's like, oh, I want less local farmers. I really love the decline of small family farm. Like I really hate that. It was bugging me,
Yeah.
Nobody says that. But the number one barrier is convenience and work. And I read some of your Substack stuff. The reason people aren't going to take any action against what you're describing, which sounds scary, is that it's going to be inconvenient and going to require work from me.
So let me address that. Well, let me address that. For me and my family, we decided a couple years ago that we were going to let's start simply. Let's get some chickens.
Okay.
See how that goes. We got some chickens. It was actually a great experience. So we said, okay, let's get more. So we did that. We said, well, let's start gardening. So we got a raised bed. Then we got 2. Then we got 4. Now we have 6, right? So you have to just dip your toe in. That doesn't mean like radically change everything you're doing tomorrow.
Right.
That means step by step, bit by bit, you will learn through how this stuff works so that you can take ownership of it and do it. You don't just buy a raised bed and then all of a sudden you're a gardener feeding your whole family.
Right.
You don't just buy a pig and then all of a sudden you're feeding your whole family. It's a process. You get to know people around you that you can trust, who can teach you.
Yeah.
Right. And slowly you're like, okay, well, let's do this. Like, let's handle this piece now and learn this, and then we can move on to the next thing.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. No, I wrote a book called Liturgy of the Land with Tan, and it was about it's about this thing that most people think, well, for me to question anything and take any action means I have to reject all things modern, grow all my own food, and I don't just have to raise and kill a pig, I also have to make blood sausage or I'm a failure. It's like, no, man, just plant a tomato. You're totally overthinking
Start
this.
baby steps, man.
Yeah, okay.
So that's all I say when I'm talking to people, and it depends on who I'm talking to. If people are a little bit more tech savvy, then they can handle a little bit more because they understand what's happening, right? They understand how this stuff works to much more degree than, even my 70-some-odd-year-old 78-year-old dad right now, who, even though I've taught it to him numerous times, he just has this block. He's like, I don't want to learn this. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But he's yet he's still using a laptop that's running Linux, open source operating system, and he's using a phone that is running an open source operating system. He still does all the things that he needs to do throughout the day.
The things you're recommending are pretty simple. One, it's that I need to maybe decouple from just signing in with Google to everything I do.
Correct.
The other one I saw that you had is just like, you probably don't need to be doing everything you're doing. But then the simple one that I thought, well, that's great. I mean, I experienced that. I'm like, that's doable. Is that most of what we need to be doing, do on a laptop. You don't need to be doing it on your phone.
Yeah, just because you can do it on your phone doesn't mean you should be doing it on your phone.
And that's from just a safety and identity stealing kind of perspective even, right? But and tell me about these. So you're even talking about like Linux. Man, I'm ignorant of these things. I've just been going with the flow, right?
Sure. So the two easy things are the operating system that runs your device.
Okay.
So even on your flip phone, here. You're like, well, I use the flip phone, so they don't have access. Well, yes and no. That flip phone is running likely KaiOS or running Google Oreo.
Can you look right now?
I could, but
okay, but it's not going to do that.
It's not going to matter. I know it's one of the two.
Sarah, are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Sarah? Okay.
So one of those two. Google runs Google Oreo, so they own and operate that. And KaiOS is actually a conglomerate between Google and the CCP, so Chinese company, which essentially means the Chinese Communist Party.
And the communists are right there.
So interesting that the operating systems that even run flip phones are still owned by Google and Google China, right? Only like as of 2 weeks ago, I found a company called Sunbeam Wireless that we're going to start offering their devices. They run their own operating system. It's called Pure OS or Basic OS, and it's their own thing. So Google doesn't own it, doesn't operate it. That's key because in a smartphone, like I have a smartphone, but my smartphone doesn't run anything Google. There's nothing Google on my phone.
Okay.
It's a smartphone.
So is it a pretty safe bet to just say, hey, just don't have Google?
Don't have Google, Apple, Microsoft.
Okay.
But you start with saying, okay, what is the operating system on my device? Because if it's Google, Apple, Microsoft, or Amazon, because Amazon makes these tablet Kindle things that people still buy, then they have access to everything going on. So
on
even
that
if
device?
Yes, on that device. So even if I'm using an encrypted messaging app and you and I are sending messages back and forth to each other and it's encrypted, right? That means a middleman can't access that data and easily decipher what conversation we're having. But if I own the operating system and control and manage the operating system on your device, I see what you see. I hear what you hear. So it renders that encryption pretty useless and pointless.
Right.
Right?
It'd be like being in a quiet room, but your enemy's also in there too.
Yeah. So it's like people are like, well, I use an encrypted blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what operating system are you using?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I still use Google. Well, I still run Windows or I still run Mac OS. I'm like, well.
Then you would say, all right, but your first one is, I think, device. Do you need to be doing what you're doing? And then you're saying operating system.
Yes.
Right, is the next big thing.
Operating system is that's like the thing.
Okay.
Because it's really their device that you're paying them for the privilege of them sucking all of your data out of this device.
Right. So I'm paying to be in their concentration camp.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
That's fine.
So there's something called Linux. Linux has been around for 30 years, 30 some odd years. 85+% of servers that live in these big data centers that control all the data for these big companies run Linux as the operating system for the server. Why do you think that is?
So that no one can get in there?
Yes, because if it's running an open source Linux-based operating system, the systems engineers, the network engineers, the software engineers, the developers, they have control of their data. It's now their system.
And is it literally just because someone was, I'm not a tech guy, but someone was just explaining to me, most of this stuff that we use in tech that's like amazing on these platforms and stuff is really just someone taking something that's already quasi-free and available, and I guess putting their label on it and getting you inside it and making you pay for it. Is that?
Yeah. So it's no different than like you renting space in someone's office building.
Okay.
Right. So you could either have an office building that you own and control, and you have full access control over what's happening in your building. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to go live in someone else's building to do all the things that I need to do in their building? And they've got the security cameras up all over the place. They've set it all up. And you don't, because you didn't read the terms and conditions, you really have no idea what they're doing in that while you're working out of that building.
And if you question it, they're like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, we're giving you this space.
Isn't this so convenient?
Yeah.
Like,
but
why are you
Linux is
complaining?
not Linux.
Linux.
Linux is just, I mean, what's the analogy of what that is if it's not a company? It's just like free exchange of ideas or what?
So Linux is simply a open source framework for operating systems, specifically for servers and laptops. Okay. Just
so you know, you're talking over my head. I'm going to nod.
No. So I'll break it down for you. So if I had the blueprints for your house, and I could see where every wall was. I could see the electrical, the plumbing, all of it, right? I had the full schematic, full architecture of your home. That's essentially open source.
Okay.
Right? So that's good with from a tech perspective because you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who can view what's happening in your home and say, hey, you have a issue at 1 a.m., your front door is becoming unlocked for 20 minutes, and then it's locking again 20 minutes later. You should fix that. And you can say, oh, crap, I didn't even know that was happening.
What is the motivation of someone seeing that or asking to fix that?
Because as a team of people who want to use these tools, we want to make sure that the tool is doing the thing that it's supposed to be doing.
And is that literally like most of these people are just like, hey, we like this tool? Is it really like sort of a free offering of?
So you have a smaller group and community of people who are the project managers, right? They control and own the core code base. They're responsible for managing that code. So it runs like a democracy, very much so. So you have that team that's responsible for making the ads, moves, changes. Microsoft has the same thing. The difference is when someone says, hey, I think there's a bug that's allowing for this loophole or this weird thing to happen. Can you fix that? And the team says, oh, crap, we need to fix that. They'll roll out a release and they'll say, trust us, we fixed it. And they're like, well, can you guarantee us and show us? And they're like, no, it's closed source. Our code is closed source. We don't want to show it to you because of our own IP or whatever reasons, right? It's proprietary information, secret.
Right. Okay.
Secret, right?
Money. Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So from a tech and software perspective, it's the same thing. So these open source operating systems like Linux, the one that we are a big proponent of is Zorin, but there's another one called Mint, and there's different versions of that open source operating system, different teams that manage different code bases, different communities of developers that are all looking at it, providing feedback.
And what's their main motivation? Why are they doing that?
They make money.
Okay.
But a lot of people farmers who make not very much money, but they get by, but they love what they do.
Right.
They're not in it to make billions of dollars.
Right.
They're in it because they want to wake up every day, know what they're going to do that day, and love what they do that day.
And they just kind of enjoy.
And they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they make a decent standard of living. Some people make really good money as that system grows and more people get involved and make donations into the organization, or they offer a premium service. So you could pay, $50 a month or $100 a month, and you'll get access to a support team. Okay. So if something breaks or whatever, you'll have access to a team that can help troubleshoot that for you.
And so that's all right. So then you're saying the devices. One, it's the operating system.
Operating system.
And then the device you're using has to be able to use a operating system. Is that what you call these ghost phones, ghost tablets, ghost laptops?
Yeah. So like the short answer is yes. Okay. There's certain devices that are specifically designed to be able to use that open source framework.
Okay. And then third question I have for you is I've learned to not trust anything that's free because, the saying is if it's free, you're the product, right? So like we do homeschool and YouTube comes in handy for looking at things. But man, I cannot trust my kids. Well, one, we never ever let our children be alone with these things. Like it's just not an option. But when we do use it, these advertised. So we pay the premium. So just to not have ads. So is a third step going to be, because you just mentioned paying it, like, are we going to have to pay money? Because everything that's free, whether it's the TikTok, which by the way, you can always sound older whenever you never say TikTok, you say the TikTok. Yeah. So the TikTok,
the Facebook,
the MySpace, just kidding. If we are basically not using those things, and then the other things we're using for like our email server, like, do I need to be paying for email, period?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially for email or like VPN, virtual private networks. There's certain services where you definitely want to be paying. A, because you want to support the team. B, because you know that it costs money to support that type of a project.
Right.
And C, because this stuff is like not easy. Yeah. So you want to be able to hire the smart, sophisticated people who can actually spend time to do this thing the right way.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what people think they should pay for and what they think they shouldn't pay for.
Right. Because of the convenience factor of what's happened. Why do I have to pay for email? It's been free for so long. Even when Google started charging you, people got pissed.
But it hasn't been free. They have to sell you, right? So it's like, I'm willing to whore myself out for that to the advertisers.
Yes.
But then again, back to the farming thing, like just the other day, someone's like, oh my gosh, your milk is so expensive. And this is someone who would articulate like hating government intervention and kind of a libertarian economics. I'm like, dude, do you know like how they figure one, it's actually the Chicago Textile Exchange, like the cost of cheese and the Chicago. That's how they decide the meat. Yep. The Mercantile Exchange. That's how they decide the price of milk. And it's like the most subsidized and conflated of the agriculture, just all the milk. So literally, no one knows how much milk actually costs.
Right.
And who's not making money is the farmer, right? And that cheap milk has a cost. But yes, you're going to have to pay more if you want to have an actual economy that isn't subsidized and controlled.
So let's talk about these devices. Right now, you could go to Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, or any carrier, and they're like, free device.
Yeah.
It's free. Get the brand new iPhone. Get the brand new Google Pixel, right? Free.
Right.
Is it free? No, they just add in the money to your contract, your monthly recurring contract, A, and B, they know you're the product.
Right.
They're making money 6 ways to Sunday because Google's literally paying Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile for every single phone that they sell.
Yeah, because they want you. They want
Because
you
they
on
want
their
your
platform.
data. They want you on your platform. So when people don't follow the money, they don't understand the economics of what they're purchasing and what they're using, then it's easy for them to say, this is too expensive.
Right. This is too expensive. And but they're not counting the cost. It's I mean, things like we had a conversation with Jared Stout, who you know, and things like tithing, like the fact that people don't tithe or even I'm thinking of, tithing is a matter of justice, but there's generosity, like supporting, like we actually have to leverage our money for good things or we're just hoarding it and eventually Google's going to get it anyway. It sounds like.
So, but on that point, my humble opinion is this. It's like the people who will return the shopping cart at the grocery store and the people who won't, right? There's a very specific personality type. The people who are not returning the shopping cart are really not our customers. They're not the people who are going to be actually buying the raw milk from the local farmer. They're people who are just so self-absorbed that they don't want to think about what's happening. They're happy to be the slaves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They say, please.
Thank you for saying it. No, that was what I was saying earlier. When you bring up, man, don't you care that the TikTok is like manipulating you? And the answer is no.
No, they don't care.
They're like,
and for me, like I've learned, especially going through COVID, man, like if you haven't gone through the last 5 years and at least even remotely started to wake up to the fact that we're being lied to all the time and started to ask questions like, wait, what? Who's doing this? Why are they doing this? It is only going to take an act of God working in that person's life to get them to change that paradigm. That's all it's going to take. No documentary I show them, there's no data I could share, no conversation I could have with them that is going to change their beliefs and their way of life. They're going to have God working. So that's what I pray for these days.
Why would I
say,
give
Lord,
you
I need you to work in these people's lives to get them to wake up. And most of my customers are, it's an individual in the family who started this journey, started this process, and they're fighting their family. And it's no different with the food stuff. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Like my best conversations are with health and wellness folks who are trying to coach someone through the process. And they're like, my wife refuses to stop buying the Doritos for our kids and the Cheetos and like all the crap for my kids. Right? Yeah. But they're so tasty.
Yeah.
It's like, she just refuses to do it. So like I'm trying, but my wife is not there with me. Mm-hmm. So we have people who are going through this journey and this process. They're learning step by step, but they have all of their friends and family who are like, well, the text, when you're texting us now in the text thread, and this is a thing, I swear to God, what your text comes through different because you're not using an iPhone anymore. Why are you not using an iPhone? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they start taking it as the personal offense. Right. I'm sure you've had this where like they sort of sense and intuit the disorder in it. And then when someone says I'm out, like young adults, if you talk to like young adults, like when they get off social media, their friends get mad at them. They view it as a rebuke. And he's like, dude, I'm not hurting you. And he's like, yes, you are. Because in a certain way, you're seceding from the village that they have, right? It's a faux village, but you're seceding, which is you're communicating something. But to your point, I think this is where we're not going to move the needle. Of course, the family has to be, and this is where the father needs to lead in his home. The family has to get on board. Yeah. And now that's a whole nother loaded question how to navigate. If you've been letting your son sit in the basement with social media for 10 years, and he's 27 and you go like these parents that tell their kids, hey, you can't play video games anymore. And they like lose their mind. Or they absolutely go ape if you take their social media. All right. Yeah. That's like, we're going to need a detox. Yeah. But let's just say you have a good working relationship with your family. All right. The father's going to lead and guide this, but the family's not good enough. Right. And the church teaches that, and we repeat this a lot in Sword&Spade because I think fathers are waking up to this. There was a time where we thought, man, we can just kind of retreat into our families and like be super orthodox and awesome, and that's going to work. But it's not human. Yeah. To be human is actually to live in community. Yeah. So this is where, I don't know if you've ever heard of some of these parents. I don't think it's big, but they do the Postman Pledge, which is after an author named Neil Postman who wrote the book Technopoly. Technocracy.
Okay. Yes.
So they just got together and say, hey, look, if we're all just drawing tech lines individually that don't line up, it does make it harder for us to be in community.
Yeah.
So I don't have, and my wife brings this up to me. She's like, I don't have a smartphone. So like when there's a group text with a bunch of guys, I'm like, I'm kind of out because I can't tell what's going on. And then for some reason, and I'm sure I could probably switch this, but I can't respond all, I guess. And so I'm just not in these like group text. I'm just not in it.
Yeah.
But my point is, if we're all drawing these different lines, well, then the desire to belong and to have a shared way of life with other people is pretty strong. So your kid might not have a smartphone, and then this other kid goes, hey, check this out, and shows them a video or whatever. So the Postman Pledge, these parents got together and say, hey, just this 4 to 6 of us, our kids aren't getting a phone until 16. Now, whether or not that's enough, but just they have to do it together.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, right now you're probably just coaching individuals, but until there is sort of a critical mass of people saying, we're on board and you're going to be fighting a really hard battle without other people.
My favorite conversations are with families, moms or dads who are like, I've got 3, 5 kids, 2 kids. Can you have this conversation with them? Because I've got kids. I've got a 19-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. So I've had to have these conversations with my own kids. And for me, I love those conversations because I know how to reach the kids and hit them.
Wow, way to sound creepy.
In groups.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But in groups and communities of people, because they have to do it together. Like you need a buddy through this process.
Right.
Having a buddy through the process makes it a lot easier to go through the process.
I think it's actually beyond just accountability in the buddy system and self-mutual protection. I think actually our desire to belong is one of the ways that we stay online.
Right. Well, also view this through the lens of like these things have become an addiction.
Yeah. What? No, I can quit anytime. Yeah.
So if we view it through the lens of this has become an addiction, how do we overcome addictions?
Right.
Like the AA process has got it pretty nailed.
Yeah. Communal life here.
What are the steps there, right? So community and accountability are key to that. So for our business, we try to be that accountability piece. We can mentor, we can coach, we can provide that accountability, but we need you to find an accountability buddy through the process. Find someone. And so we try to provide frameworks where people can find that person that they can go through the process together with.
Yeah.
And that helps immensely.
See, I think you should think about it. I mean, that's good. Go find your buddy, but some sort of way of like nurturing communities. Like, hey guys, we're going to go through this process together, get the feedback, compare notes. I mean, I could see a group of fathers
that's
saying,
why I did this at church, man. That's why I try to do this at our church.
I missed it. And some little church lady was like, Jason, you weren't there, you jerk.
We had like 12 people show up. Great, amazing. If 3 people showed up, that would have been fine, right? But I know every single person at our church would have loved to have been in that room.
Yeah.
And should have been in that room hearing what I had to say.
You should have had a Facebook ad, man.
But it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when little old lady goes in there, which she was there and she was amazing. Love her. Yeah. She hands out my business cards all the time. But I need you there. I need the Fraternus guys there. But you don't know me. So this goes, I love I was at the confirmation class and you were talking about community. Like that hit me really deeply because of the nature of what I do. I was like, duh, Sean, why the hell am I not investing more time in this type of relationship, meeting more other men so that my son can develop those types of relationships? And my daughter who's going through confirmation, she's like, well, who's my sponsor going to be? She's like, well, I don't know. I know Sister Mary Jacinta.
Yeah.
And I know my dad, who's still a very traditional, faithful Catholic. And I know, she's like, well, can you, Dad, be my sponsor? I'm like, no, I can't be your sponsor.
Yeah.
I wish she had more options.
She should ask my daughter. They know each other.
They do.
She's old enough. She's been a sponsor. All right. Okay. I'm glad to tie these two things together because the point that we had in that class was that is the thing that Fraternus is like trying to overcome is that God has already made us brothers. We're just bad at doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not as if like Fraternus means brotherly, right? It's not as if it's like a theme like, hey, Brother Sean. It's like it doesn't make us feel good. It's not an analogy. We actually are, because we have a common father, we actually are brothers.
Right.
And I've always been fascinated with Christendom, with the way medieval Christians took that so seriously in the form of monastic religious life, but also in their laws, that they recognized I have a bound nature to these people in front of me. I better know them. Mm-hmm. So I think the way to tie it to what you're saying, the way tech is able to know us so well is because we don't know each other.
Yes.
Because if we knew each other, one, we have to know ourselves, which we don't. And then we know God, know yourself. It's the same thing.
Have a conversation with your neighbor. It's like you don't even know your neighbor, and yet you know this random person across the country you think is your best friend, who may or may not even be a real person.
Yeah. And what's worse is you feel as if you're doing something good when you do something good to them, which Scripture's pretty, like when Jesus said love your neighbor, he meant like your neighbor. And when St. Paul says carry one another's burdens, like if I need to know, I don't have to discern God's will every day. I know who I'm supposed to love and serve, right? And it's you, and it's not someone far away. Even to the, when St. Paul says, he who doesn't take care of his family is worse than an unbeliever. Now, we know that's like referring to children and parents, although we barely apply it to parents. But it also very clearly in Scripture applies to us. And I think tech has just fed, this kind of sort of modern liberalism, but then tech has fueled our unknowing of one another, so that like the most important thing we can do is just like get in the same room. And you've got gifts and knowledge and wisdom that is literally under a bushel basket because we don't know each other. That's a problem. So I'm glad to tie those. But if we're going to take your advice, then it's the platform, the device that the platform's on.
Yeah.
Pay some money to have that operating system, like pay for.
So a lot of the apps you don't even need to pay for. So like the operating system is called Graphene OS.
Okay.
It's the most private, the most secure open source operating system for mobile phones. Linux, Zorin OS, which is Linux for laptops. You don't have to pay for it. You can literally just install it on any device. I can pay for a premium service with Zorin, or I can make a donation with Graphene OS. So like a percentage of all of our sales, we then feed back to that team because I want them to keep developing and creating cool features.
Right.
They're going to continue to make this thing more private, more secure, and kick out the bad guys.
Sweet.
So that's where like the stewardship also comes into play.
So maybe we shouldn't say pay, but stewardship. Like be aware that money matters.
Yeah.
It's important.
Right.
But then I think we've arrived at the last one is like this has to expand outward to your family, your community.
Right.
Or you're just like two weird guys talking on a podcast.
Right.
Right. So, all right. I think I'm just going to leave you with, I think you should read a book called, or books about acedia. Because I think it's this state that we're in of people not caring that they're being, write that down. Called The Noonday Devil. There's one by R.J. Snell, and then there's a really good one by Abbott Nault, Nault. But basically, acedia is different from like just sheer laziness or aloofness in that when you bring up something like you are a beloved son of God and you're called to greatness, you actually have sorrow at the good things you're called to. So instead of good things making you excited that you can be a part of them and do them, it makes you sad that you're called to more. So I think when people are so saturated in tech, like the essential vice is acedia. Because when I realize that God wants more than what this is giving me, I wish he didn't. Because then I could just stay here and look at my porn all night. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he's calling me out of it and calling me to more makes me sad. Yeah.
To those who much has been given, much is expected. That's what I always go back to. Yeah. And that's where that's the bane of my existence is always like, what more could I be doing? What more should I be doing? I've been given so many gifts, so many tools. Yeah. I'm like, am I ever going to be doing enough? And the answer is no. But does that mean that God doesn't love me just the same? No. He still loves me.
And let me tell you something. For the last hour and 18 minutes, you've given a great gift to the men of Fraternus and Sword&Spade. So thank you for being on this podcast.
I appreciate that.